Well, good morning, everybody. What an event this is. I'm thrilled to be here, especially as you heard, I graduated here in 1964. Now, the math nerds among you are going just like that. 1964, that's 53 years ago. That guy's got to be over 70 years old. And you'd be right, 71, in fact. But the thing about getting a little older, I say a little older, is that actually you stop caring what people think or what people say about you. And so you can just kind of put it out. And so it's in that spirit that I ask this question. Do you think men are more intelligent than women? Or do you think women are more intelligent than men? Let's just have a little straw poll. Who thinks men are more intelligent than women? Yeah, the men are a little reluctant, but it's all men that are voting for that one. Who thinks women are more intelligent? Oh boy, just like that. Ah! Well, that says something right there. You know, the fact is, a quick look at history will tell you that really men have been the major contributors and creators of advancements in science and mathematics, you know, biology, chemistry, physics, and certainly in the applied sciences, engineering, economics, psychology, you know, and they have been also the major contributors. They've done the lion's share of contribution in history, philosophy, in music, arts. And so, you know, when we think about it, all the great prophets that have come to earth, they're all men. And the individuals that came after them and took their message and created religions and led religions, all men. When was the last time we had a female pope? You know? Doesn't happen. Yeah, so, you know, when you start to think of it, you know, in business and in government, once again, all men, although things are starting to change just in the last few decades. But before we can put a tick under male on that one, we kind of have to, well, not we kind of have to, we have to see what the female thinks of those last few comments. And I can hear women saying, okay, yeah, we'll give you that. Yeah, you guys have dominated politics and religion and government. There's no question about that. And actually, while we're at it, we'll throw in medicine and science and law and a bunch of other things. So the question that we have for you guys is, how are you doing so far with the planet? Yeah? How is that working? Have you got this global warming thing figured out? Are you able to feed everybody on the planet? We can do it operationally, but we don't seem to be able to do it. What's happening in Iran and in the Middle East and North Korea and in many countries in Africa? Yeah, so we can't really put that tick up there just yet. Now, one of the things that I think most of us agree on is that women are thought to be more emotional than men. That men are somehow more rational. That they kind of think through the consequences of their words and actions before they initiate. Although the current president of the United States would be one example where that just doesn't hold. So, if men are so rational, and that women tend to come more from their feelings, and we'll reflect on it later. But here's another question. If men are so rational, if they do think things through before they act, how come of the 11 million people right now currently in jails around the world, incarcerated, how come fully 95% of them are men? No, I don't think we can put a tick up there just yet on that score. Now, one thing we can all agree on, both genders that can agree on, is the fact that men are physically stronger than women. And in fact, have been physically stronger right from the beginning through to this day. And so before the atom was smashed and the books were written and religions were created, you know, before music and language and fire, you know, when we were really literally crawling out of the swamp 6 million years ago, that one biological fact, that is the superiority of male physical strength has given the male the ability to control and at times dominate the situations in which they are in, and it has set the tone. It has actually framed, formed, and maintained this relationship that has existed between male and female since the very beginning. So, it isn't really about intelligence. It's actually about physical strength, and that's been going on for literally millions of years. And in actual fact, if your criteria is the survival of the species, well, you'd have to say it's worked. We're flourishing, so men became hunters and gatherers and protectors and worked outside of the home or the cave with sticks and stones. And the women worked inside the home, bearing children, raising children, preparing the food. And so we have these different roles forming up, different ways of living our lives. But in actual fact, we do have the same levels of intelligence. Now, if we go back actually to the time of Christ, there were literally not only, but 300 million people living on the planet at that time, less than the population of the United States. So plenty of room and spaces, resources for everyone, food, although we still squabbled a lot then as well. And it took 1,800 years to go from 300 million to 1 billion people. 1,800 years. Then things really kicked into gear. That was the start of the Industrial Revolution. It took only 100 years to go from 1 billion to 2 billion, 1900, and then only 60 years to go to 3 billion. And you know where this is going. You've seen the numbers. Today, 57 years later, we are at 7.5 billion people on the planet. So whatever is going on in the earth with all the issues, and all the creation, all the wonderful things and all the not so wonderful things, the dominant overriding issue that is going on in our world and will be for the rest of your lives and the rest of the lives of your children is this massive explosion in population, which means a huge change in living conditions. And it also means that you and I, living here right now, are going to have to make changes in our life in order to survive. Darwin told us this 150 years ago. He said, adapt or perish. That's it. Two choices. That's all you've got. And so, we ran into a situation in the in 1800s, late 1760s, where the world's population doubled, just like that. And so, hence came the Industrial Revolution, which is basically a chapter in history of a group of people trying to find ways to survive this incredible growth. And today it's the same thing, and that's why technology is here to help us to survive that explosion. Now, really, the human beings, survived, not only survived, but flourished. And you know the history. All of a sudden, over a very short period of time, we had the steam engine, we had electricity, we had light bulbs, we had telephones, we had the internal combustion engine, manned flight, and it just went on and on. Literally every decade there was these incredible cures, incredible developments, and here we are today. We survived that, and I'm glad we did, otherwise you wouldn't be here, and neither would I. But there are some consequences to that kind of expression of humanity when it's trying to survive. And one of those consequences is that the education system in the early 1800s, totally controlled about men, filled with young men and young boys being taught, students, then went on a massive training, literally 250-year training exercise in developing our intellects. And we know that it worked. We survived as a species. But one of the side effects is that we succeeded in producing generation after generation of intellectually overbuilt but emotionally underdeveloped males. And here we are today. We have books that we read that, men are from Mars and women are from Venus and never the two will meet. It's got a lot of humor, but also a lot of wisdom. And the main point of view put across is that men come from their intellects. They lead their life from their intellects. They see things intellectually. That's how we create these inventions and these creations in order to survive. And women come from their heart. They express their emotions. And so, a man today says, emotions? Feelings? You want to talk about that? It's complicated. It's confusing. It's disruptive. It's very messy. Oh my God, she's crying. What the hell am I going to do now? Well, here's a couple of thoughts, or a few thoughts that I've picked up about emotions and feelings along the way. Feelings without words convey context and perspective and understanding. Feelings help us to understand without words the other person's point of view. Facts, hell, we forget facts all the time. But you know what? You never forget a feeling. If I had a piece of yellow cedar here in my hand right now with that sweet and pungent smell, and I took a sniff, just like that I would be filled with memories and feelings and sensations of my father. And he died 65 years ago. Just like that, immediate. Facts go in and out of here at the speed of light. Feelings lodge, and they cue us and instruct us for the rest of our life. This is starting to become actually a much more important dimension than I think males have thought for a period of time. So, not only that, the feelings, if I think about facts for a minute, I'm 6'2", I'm 220 pounds, I've got blue eyes, I'm bald, I have white hair, and the meniscus in my right knee started to bother me about 2 months ago. You think though that set of facts is of any assistance to me right now as I'm speaking to you? It's not only of no assistance, it's really of no value to me. The other thing, or the last thing on this point, is that feelings precede thought. Feelings generate motion, activity, institute or initiate behavior. Actually, feelings are the source. We call it emotion. This conference is about drive. Drive originates here. We can direct it, we can frame it, we can schedule it, we can time it, we can focus it. Up here with this intellect, with this central processing unit, but it originates here. So, that being the case, if you look in the dictionary under the word smart, what you'll see is quick-witted, grasps concept quickly. It says mental power, mental strength, and really that's a description of this central processing unit. It's a description of your intellect. It processes data. And if you look under the dictionary, in the dictionary under the word intellect, it says the capacity for thinking and reasoning as distinct from feeling. Two separate functions. If you look at the next word in the dictionary under intellect, interestingly enough, it happens to be intelligence. Kind of something different now has entered the equation. And of intelligence, it says the capacity for understanding, for perceiving and comprehending meaning. Oh, meaning. Okay, now, what does it say about meaning? It says the sense and significance of a word, a sentence, an action, a symbol. It talks about the true interpretation or intended purpose of a speech or a message or an action. So what we've done in the last minute is gone from a discussion of our intellect and moved down to our heart and to our emotions and to our feelings. And the thing is, when you combine combine those two aspects of yourself in the right amount, at the right time, in the right way, you actually create intelligence. You create meaning. You create insights. In fact, you create your intelligence, your meaning, your insight. And in that moment, some interesting things happen. The world slows down. It doesn't speed up. You become calmer and quieter. You don't become louder and more excited. You gain clarity. You become more clear because you can, in that moment, you can see further and you can see deeper into. And these are the moments of personal growth. These are the moments of growth in your maturity, in your intelligence, and in your confidence and self-confidence in you and the world around you. So these are important moments. We have this body. We walk around and we are made up of only two things. Really, we're made up of our intellect, we're made up of our emotions. And, you know, neuroscience shines a really interesting light on this because it tells us that our feelings originated in the reptilian portion of our brain at the same time for men and for women. And that literally, millions of years later, the thinking function began to install itself into our brain and lodged itself in the frontal lobes, and we call this the executive function or the intellect. And you know, one day the intellect may become the rulers of our emotions, but we are a long way from that in an evolutionary sense. So, you know, just in closing here, I will say to you that, you know, this is really an interesting school, and it's a really successful school. You know, things like this occurring are wonderful events, and there's a lot of reasons why it's successful. But there's actually two pieces that I think are a huge part of the success of this institution, and one is about 25 years ago, this school was the first independent school in Canada that said, we're going coeducational. And boy, was Brentwood ridiculed and teased at that time. What are they doing? Can you imagine? A year later, the head of school at the time, Bill Ross, was asked what was the impact, and he said, without a shadow of a doubt, it has improved the behavior and a much more balanced approach to life on behalf of all of the students. It's a much healthier and much more sensible place for students to grow and live and learn. And the other thing that you all know about is that over the years, your program has evolved into three separate parts, 1/3 of which is the arts. 1/3 of the resources, 1/3 of the facilities, 1/3 of the energy and effort is devoted to the arts, which is a specific initiative to develop this aspect of the human being. And that's what makes this place so alive and so highly functional and such a great place to live and learn. So I would leave you with one challenge, and I would say, talk about this, talk to your house parents, talk to your teachers, talk to the head of school, and say, if we're so comfortable being on the leading edge, well, why not take that third step and begin to include in your curriculum courses which specifically address the issue of a healthy and highly functioning balance between emotions and intellect. And in that way, we can secure this development of healthy, highly functioning, and successful adults. So, I got to thank you very, very much. It was just wonderful to be here, and just a great experience to be able to talk to you about this important topic. Thanks very much.